Hi guys. Yesterday I was at Dmitrov, which is a little city close to Moscow, about 40 miles away from it, to the north. And I was walking around this ancient place we call the Dmitrov Kremlin. Actually, it's not Kremlin. It's a huge wall, which is most likely up to maybe 30 feet high. And these are my pictures from yesterday, and as you can see, it's pretty huge. It surrounds the area called the Dmitrov Kremlin, and kids do have a lot of fun riding off of these hills, off of these walls. Why I call them walls? Because they called walls in Russia, and actually I'd like to see the Google Translate. The wall, wall in Russian means shaft in English, but also it has a wall definition, which is a barrier or some type of surrounding area, So, Valovaya улица in Russian would be the grocery, but when you translate it like Wall Street, we have the street of the wall. So it might be the right definition, because we have a lot of wall streets in Russia. We have a bunch of them in Moscow, and they all got their definition or their names after those walls, the huge walls that I'm talking about. So it's okay to surround your city or site with this type of wall, maybe for defense purposes and stuff like that, but it's not very high to be and it's not very hard to climb for enemies, because even kids can climb it, and I don't think it's actually the defense purpose which was occurring while they built those walls. Okay, and we see a lot of pictures of this wall and a bunch of other walls. What I was trying to say is what we observe is not actually what the historical scientists tell us, because they may do this type of exposition, this is modern one, it's actually not the old one, just made it to engage more tourists into this Kremlin stuff, and they call it the Kremlin to label it or name it something more famous, because Moscow Kremlin and other Kremlins are pretty famous. That's why don't they just name it Kremlin to engage more tourists to come and visit this Dmitrov place. And of course this might be small walls in comparison to those serpent walls which we observe in Ukraine. And if you type serpent walls or dragon walls, you're gonna understand that it is an ancient system of eastern fortifications of valla, the streets across of the Ukraine. Of course not Ukraine, this Russia, because Ukraine never existed, and Ukraine was just the name of the border region. So when you name the border region, you say the Ukraine. And right now it's an independent country, and they say it was their fortifications. Of course, maybe, but we doubt that, because when you call it the Serpent walls, they are pretty similar to ancient railways, because they spread to total length of 1,000 kilometers and look like railroads, railways, walls, maybe. So when you build some railway, you have to build it on some height, because of some purpose, you know. So when you build it, you try to make these little hills and stretch them to the length of this railroad. I'm not saying all those metro falls and stuff like that were actually railways, but they could have been, because it could have been the station of some ancient railroad, and it had a circular turn for trains to turn around, and when you have the end point of this length, you can have it as a stop station when the train is turning around and riding the other way. And that's why we have those walls all around the planet. And I've never said that this planet is not flat, so you guys understand that the planet is the same as a plane, but it's a little bit smaller, because the plane could waste for forever, and the planet is still has some borders, or has some endpoints. And that's why those walls stretch around all this world, and we observe them, and we look at them as natural. Why do we see it natural? Because they call it askers, like the Ice Age askers and stuff like that, but I don't think it's similar to askers, because they look like they are not multiplying themselves, because when you have askers, you don't have just one single wall or wave or whatever. You have like a bunch of them, like we have on the sand after the tide. Let me show you this, like this. It should be like this, not like this. Okay? So I want you guys to think about it, because it's a great point. It represents how advanced were the ancestors, how big did they make those railroads, and because they used machinery, of course, because this is not a manual job, this is not a handmade constructions. It's obviously the machinery which was erased from this planet after the mud flood, and that's actually how it's supposed to look if it's natural. Check it out. Let me show you again. This is natural, supposedly. This is natural, and this is not. It's actually, when we see those type of stuff, we gotta understand that this is ancient roads, ancient railroads or something like that. So that also proves the level of technological advance of our ancestors was a pretty high level. It also proves that they might be using those walls to shut down the waves of the flood, which was occurring pretty regular, as we know, because it was occurring like a couple of times in medievals, and we also know the legends of the Great Mud Flood, or the Great Flood in Bible. Sorry. So our ancestors were aware of that, and they built those walls, and now they all destroyed, of course, because nothing and nobody is caring about them. And now they look just pretty similar to those natural eschers that we observe in a couple of places. So I want you guys to think about it and write me comments what do you think about it, and so we can discuss it and do a further research. And I want you to look on the Serpent's wall or Trajan's wall and other walls that we have in Europe, and maybe we have some in America which I'm not aware of.